So in this video I just want to have a little chat, I don't know if it's any use to anybody, hopefully it is, but just a little chat about the pros and cons of a 50cc quad versus a 50cc bike. As a kid's new first bike really, I guess you're probably going to be buying second hand, and both these bikes are, I call the quad a bike, but anyway, both these bikes are quite old. The little Jet Bambino is 40 odd years old, 45 years old, and the Suzuki LT 50 quad must be about 30 years old. But anyway, so the typical sort of things you're probably going to get if you're going to buy a second-hand bike. Maybe it'd be Chinese, or the little Yami PW50s are very popular. But these two machines are pretty typical really. So the obvious things, right, pros and cons, is right, how much bigger the quad is than the bike. I don't think you actually see in this video, but you can see the quad is at least twice the size, probably 3 times the size, and not only that, it's just loads more awkward. So storing it is a swine, it's a nuisance, it takes up loads of space, it's too heavy to lift, you can't put it on a shelf, you can't hide it away or anything like that, it weighs a ton. I'm fairly fit, I struggle to lift it. I can sort of get it onto a workmate or something to do some work on, but it's not something I want to be doing all the time. It does weigh an absolute ton, while a 50cc bike you can probably pick it up with one arm. Throw it in the boot of the car, it fits in no problem. Put it in the boot of the car and a load of stuff in the car. The quad fits in the boot of the car, we're not getting much else in there once that's in. It is just a massive, it takes up a lot of space in the garage. So that's a major thing for me. You know, if you've got space for storing them, fine. I've got a great big car for carrying them around. Think that you might actually want to take it on holiday with you, so you can have loads of stuff in the boot anyway, whatever. The second thing is, there's just a lot more on the quad to go wrong with it really. There's a steering mechanism on it, the frame is massively more substantial because it's got 4 wheels. It's just more complicated than the little bike. So it's just, there's more on it, and even though the parts are pretty easy to get and the parts are very similar, I think the Suzuki LT50 engine goes in the little 50cc kids bike as well. But it's a bit of a downside. There's a lot more bearings in it and stuff like that, so it's just a lot more to go wrong. Right, okay, so they're just the logistics of owning the thing. Right, what I really want to get into this video is safety with it. Now, I think a lot of people who've got no experience in motorcycles, a lot of parents who've got no experience in motorcycles, are going to come along and go, the quad is safer because I can't fall off it, right? And in my view, you know, I've not done a lot of stuff with kids with these. I tend to just fix the things and give them back, but I wouldn't recommend a quad for a very young child. The motorcycle is a lot safer now. If you're not used to bikes and you're used to cars, I can see why parents think the quad is safer. But the problem is that the quad is a lot heavier and it's prone to rolling. Okay, the round wheels, and I know modern quads are going to be a lot safer. They've got suspension, they've got better brakes, they've got square tyres, and they don't roll as easy. They're wider, but they're probably bigger and heavier again, which is a bit of a pain, which comes back to the first point. But anyway, if you have a small child on this and this quad rolls, it's going to hurt, right? If you go around the corner on a motorcycle and the kid falls off, it just falls off, he lands in the mud, the bike lands next to him. Even if the bike lands on top of him, the bike is so light, it's not going to do any damage, it's so light. Plus, kids tend to have experience of bikes anyway. They've been had a push bike, a bicycle, had a kid's bike, they've been on stabilizers. They know if you go too fast around the corner, you're going to fall off. The quad is different. The kids will just go nuts. They'll just keep the gas on and they'll go around the corner and it'll roll on top of them. And when it rolls, it'll roll completely on top of them. Now, I wouldn't want that on top of me. On top of a 3-year-old, that could do some real damage. Okay. Another thing is the quad is prone to tipping. If you go up a very steep incline, what happens is all the weight moves to the back tyres dig in, the front goes light and the whole lot just comes right back and rolls right up on top of you. Go on YouTube and just type in quad fails or whatever, and you're going to see people rolling them right back. Now, they should really have a weight here on the front. Now, I think they were fitted with a counterweight on the front. That even hits the performance even more, and makes them even heavier to lift in and out of the car, and even more of a pain. But it's supposed to stop that lifting business. Okay, for me, that's just a no-no. You don't want this quad on top of a 3 or a 4-year-old. It's going to hurt them. So, second one is right. There's no suspension on the quad, and the bike's got suspension. Now, it's very rudimentary suspension, but it's enough to save the frame, and it's enough to stop the kid getting bounced off the bike. There's no suspension on the quads, and if you look at these quads, the frames are all welded up, because what happens is they just smash the frames up. The chassis breaks, it breaks at the back, it breaks at the front, and the whole thing's just it needs to be welded up, and it needs to be welded up right, or it's just a bit of a death trap. I don't like that either. Another thing is, there's virtually no brakes on the quad. The bike's got 2 little disc brakes on them, and the tiny little things, but the bike weighs nothing, and them 2 little disc brakes are 2 little drum brakes are gonna haul that bike up, no problem. Kid knows how to use brakes, they're gonna whack them on. The same brakes as what we've got on their bicycle, they're just gonna pull them and do it. The quad, it's got no brakes on the front axles, and on the back, it's got the smallest little drum you've ever seen, and it's just that one drum. Now, this thing weighs probably 3 times what that weighs, and it's got half the braking power. So there's another problem with it. Another one is, and I know the newer ones are not the same, there's no differential on it. So most parents probably don't realise that when you've got a differential on them, you need a differential to turn. These things have to skid steer, so basically there's a bit of a technique to turning with them. You've sort of got to gas them and spin them round a bit. You've sort of got to spin one wheel, so you've sort of got to move your weight and spin them, and they're quite difficult really. And if the kid gets it wrong, he's going to turn the handlebars and he's going to go straight on into whatever obstacle he's trying not to go into. So another thing that I don't like about the quad. What else? Have I covered everything there? Have I talked you out of the quad and into the bike? Yeah. Maybe as an older one, or more modern ones are safer, better brakes on them, a bit of suspension on them, maybe a differential on them in some way that actually helps them steer. Oh, another thing I don't like about the quad, compared to the bike, is that this is a bit of a problem here. I don't like the situation here with your feet and the back wheel right in line. What happens is the kid stands up, they open the throttle, and the bike runs over their ankles. You're going to force their ankle underneath there. Now, I notice a lot of owners, they fill this portion in, they'll put some checkerboard in or something like that to fill that portion in, so the kid can't put his feet down on the ground. That's a really good idea, and I see the newer ones are like that. If you've got an older quad, I definitely recommend doing that. It's such an easy accident to do, because it's centrifugal clutch, so as soon as you give it any gas on the thumb, all it's going to do is going to run their ankles over and probably break their ankle, which I don't like either. Of course, on the bike there's no such problem. It's even got flick up footrest generally, so if they gas it, the bike just runs away with them, it gets out of their hand and it just falls over. It's not a problem at all. Another little thing to consider with the quad versus the motorbike as well is the performance. So the engines are virtually the same power really, and because this is hauling around 3 times its weight, its performance is pretty pathetic really. And the new ones are even worse. Where the little 50c motorbike will get up to about 28 mile an hour, something like that, 30 mile an hour on a good surface. The quad's going to struggle to get up to 20 mile an hour. And you've got to consider how quickly is the kid going to outgrow it. Now, something that goes 30 mile an hour has got the same performance as a 50cc road bike, like a moped. You know, it's where you want the kids to be really. You know, you want them to learn. You need to get them up to speed so that they can handle the bike. The quad doing 20 mile an hour, and plus it's not motorcycle controls either. It's got a horrible thumb throttle, and of course just a single brake for the single drum. which of course is on the wrong side as well, that you want to teach them. So that's another factor really. You know, if part of you doing this is to teach them skills, you know, to be able to handle a vehicle, when they come to learn to do their car test or bike test, the quad's sort of a vehicle in its own. It's neither a bike or a car. So a bike sort of, if you're going to get a bike when you're 16 or 17, the little bike is, well, it's a bike, isn't it? You know, you're going to be in such a good place when you're 16. They're going to be able to handle themselves with it. But if you spend time on quads, then I don't know. It's a factor for me. Okay, so I've covered that one. What's the good points of the quad? For very young children, I guess, you know, under 4, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, who haven't got the strength to balance, they probably don't have experience on a push bike, you know, outside stabilizers, the quad maybe is better. You kind of adjust the throttle so that you can limit the speed. Not that it really needs limiting the speed really, because it doesn't really go fast enough to worry about the speeds. But anyway, that's maybe a factor for very young children. What else? I'm really struggling. Maybe in very muddy surfaces. I guess if you're on a farm or something where the surfaces are extremely muddy, the ground's really muddy, then the quad's probably better than the bike. Probably easier to ride than the little bike. Maybe you get less dirty. I don't know. Struggling, really struggling to come up with any pros for the quad really. It looks quite cool. Maybe the kids like the look of them. It's a bloody awful thing. The worst thing to me is just storing them. It's got so little lock as well. Trying to move it around in the garage, it's just a right nuisance. Oh, and it has a stupid pull cord, like a recoil, like on a boat outboard, which is just ridiculous because you need your hands to start it. You know, you've got the choke on, you want to give it a bit of throttle, and now you're trying to pull the recoil at the same time. And it's really stupid. Of course, on this, we have to get the recoil to do, you have to pull the front brake in anyway because the centrifugal clutch. So you actually need 4 hands to start this. You need your thumb on the throttle, your thumb on the choke, pull the brake and pull the recoil. So it's like a 2-man job to start it. Where the little bike is just turn the fuel on and go. Oh, I don't know. I'll leave you to make a decision. I think I've listed everything that I can think of. I hope this is some use. I hope this video is some use to you. Make an informed decision about what's best for you.